Hello everyone and welcome back to The Barrel and our series where we analyse each AFL club's 2024 fixture, identify some breakout players and set a realistic passing mark for their season. Today we have the Melbourne Footy Club who have lost their last 4 finals and gone out in straight sets 2 years in a row. They've also had some pretty hefty off-field controversy with Joel Smith and of course Clayton Oliver, who we still don't know if he'll be playing in round 0. So can the D's beat the ghosts of their past? That's the question we'll be answering today. So sit back, relax and enjoy as we look back on their underwhelming season and see what lies ahead for them in 2024.
So in 2023, the D's finished 4th on the ladder with 16 wins and 7 losses. They had about as good a home and away season as you could have wished for as a Demons fan. However, they did probably lose a few they should have won, such as Essendon and Gather Round, Fremantle at the MCG and GWS in Alice Springs. But, as we all know, the finals is where it really all fell apart for the D's. They had a dominant display against the Pies, but unfortunately fell short in the first week. If they had kicked straighter, they would have won pretty comfortably. They absolutely dominated inside 50, so that was bitterly disappointing for all their fans. And finally, against the Blues in the semi-final, where they lost in absolutely heartbreaking fashion to a Blake Acres goal in the dying stages, which ultimately led to their second consecutive straight set exit, which they were the first club since 2000 to do so. So many fans will be understandably angry with their final series. So let's see if they have what it takes to win in September in 2024. So their fixture was ranked the 10th hardest. They have 2 byes in round 6 and 14. They play Brisbane, Collingwood, Fremantle, Port Adelaide, West Coast and the Western Bulldogs twice. Brisbane is a team that no one wants to be playing twice, as I've said in pretty much every single preview video. At the Gabba, it's pretty much a guaranteed loss for every single side with how they play there. Collingwood, the reigning premiers, you expect them to be right up there yet again, and with 2 games at the MCG, seeing as both teams have the ground as their home ground, you don't really see them as easy beats in either of those games. Fremantle, they seem to surprise the D's as of recently. I can remember a few games where they've got the win against them at home. In Perth, it's a bit of a different story. Fremantle tend to play better up there, so there are 2 certain danger games there with the Dockers. Port Adelaide, a few have tipped them to slide. I'm not too sure yet. It's a bit of a wait and see on that one, but definitely 2 tough matches against the Power, who were a very good side last year and at stages were the best side in the competition. West Coast, you expect them to be down the bottom yet again. They had an absolutely shocking year in 2023, so it should be 2 easy wins for the D's. And the Dogs, you never really know with the Dogs. Beveridge seems to have one of the most talented lists in the competition, but just can't seem to get that onto on-field success, barring their 2016 premiership, of course. So the crop isn't too bad overall. There's 2 top-tier sides in Brisbane and Collingwood. The rest is certainly beatable. However, I think it's more of a question of form, when they play, where they play. So it's a bit too early to tell with the rest of the bunch. The D's will play 14 games at the MCG. They have 2 absolute marquee blockbusters there. One, King's Birthday against Collingwood, and second, Anzac Eve against Richmond. They're also hosting some other big games at the G. They host Brisbane in round 5. Collingwood, which is always a big game in round 24. They also host some other big clubs in Essendon, Hawthorn and Geelong. Overall, I'd say this fixture is pretty decent. Plenty of blockbuster games for them. And with 14 games at the G, playing as much as possible there is always of utmost importance, and they got exactly what they wanted. Their trips are quite tough, I must say. They go to Perth twice, which is the hardest road trip in footy, while also going to the Northern Territory to play Fremantle, which are always very physically demanding games up there. However, being a very strong team that they are, it's expected that they get a tough fixture. And to be honest, you have to win against anyone regardless of the ground, which is the test that the AFL have put to them. Now for breakout players, Melbourne's list is in a very interesting spot. Being contenders for so long, they've neglected to develop their youth and missed access to absolute top-end talent in the draft. So I have only 2 breakout players from the usual 3. Number 1, Judd McVie. was absolutely fantastic last year in the backline, playing 25 games. And although he never cracked the 20 disposal mark, he showed plenty of composure and skill whenever he was put under pressure. Obviously, his inexperience was laid bare in the semi-final against Carlton when he lunged at Doherty on the game-winning play. But I expect things like that to fuel the fire in his belly even more and him to be an absolute lock for the Demons 22 this year. Also solidifying himself as one of the most promising young defenders in the competition with his elite kicking and evasiveness. Secondly, Jacob Van Rooyen. After finally making his debut after 3 years in the system, Van Rooyen had a very strong start to his career, including a match-winning performance on Anzac Day Eve in the final quarter against Richmond, where he was very close to being subbed off. He's a fantastic kick and a great presence in the forward line. I expect with their aging key forward targets, he is the future, and he'll show Demons fans exactly why he is their next Coleman medalist with a strong year in 2024. If he can keep himself from being suspended, he will be an absolute star, I'm sure of it. I wouldn't rule him out for kicking 40 plus goals in the year, so watch out for that. I could have included some players such as Bowie, Rivers and Sparrow, but I think it's a year too late for them and they already sort of are recognised within the competition and have taken the step towards being some of the best young players in their respective positions already. So let's move on to a passing mark. I see the D's as an absolute, genuine premiership threat in 2024. However, many have been sceptical due to their off-field struggles and seeming loss of culture. However, I still see them as a top team, as mentioned before, and for a passing mark, I think it has to be finishing top 4 and being a genuine grand final / premiership contender. Their forward line doesn't have a defined superstar, but they work fantastically well together. Fritsch and Melksham, I think, are very underrated and find their way onto the scoreboard on a very consistent basis. Pickett and McAdam should work very well together, and that Van Rooyen / Petty combination should be a headache for opposition teams if they're both firing, which I expect them both to be. Neil Bullen and Cade Chandler are also very underrated and key to their structure, so the D's will need some big years from them. Their midfield is one of the best, if not the best, in the competition. Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, Gawn. You don't get much better than that in the engine room. Their wingers in Langdon and Hunter can run all day and are very important for their ball movement. And Sparrow, as a pinch hitter in there, is also a defined young gun who has a super high ceiling for the future. Their backline is also extremely strong. They probably have two of the best interceptors in the competition with May and Lever. Salem, McVie, Rivers and Bowie are all very, very, very good smalls and can all run, kick and carry at a well above average level. Tomlinson, I'd say, is their one weak point, purely in comparison to the other names they have in there, but I don't think he takes away from the strength of this backline at all. So overall, the club is in a bit of a shambles seemingly, but their list is still fantastic. They should be finishing top 4. I definitely think they should be winning finals and ideally making it far into the finals as well. Hopefully they can have a very good crack at the premiership, which they just can't seem to get near since their triumph in 2021. So that's all I have for the D's in 2024. Check out our best 22 video in the description for an idea of who we have making their final team. And that'll do it. Join us next time as we analyse the North Melbourne Footy Club for season 2024. Thank you for watching and goodbye.